Just as a matter of introduction, if you could have a blanket of some sort handy, that would be helpful. And a couple of yoga blocks or anything that can function as a yoga block. You could use a stack of books or an upside down pot, a little step stool, just anything that you can place your hands on. It's not absolutely essential, but it will be helpful to you if you have something available like that. I will start the session with a bell. So if there are any questions before we get started, now would be a good time to shout those out. Just remember you're on mute, so if you are shouting out a question, you need to unmute. Okay. All right, I don't hear any questions right now. The other thing as sort of an introduction that I'd like to say, if questions come up during the class, it probably, depending on how many people we will have, might be too difficult to ask them during class. If we only have what we see on the screen right now, you can unmute and shout out your question. If we get more people, then at some point it might be too many, in which case you could just write your question to me and I will answer them later by email after the class. In terms of how to be positioned as we start, to begin with, have a seat and then we'll take it from there. So I will now go ahead and bring us in and get us started. And for those of you who have taken my classes before, you know by now that I always bring my classes in with the bell. And then we have a moment of silence until the bell itself stops its vibration. So welcome to this YogaX movement practice. We are really thrilled to be able to offer you live streamed online classes. As I mentioned earlier, we will be recording these and we will place them on our website, or the link to them anyway, so that you can pass them on to other people or come back to them, or let people know who maybe couldn't join. So our class today is dedicated to the theme of equanimity. And to me, equanimity is sort of the foundational skill for coping and resilience. Because when we rest in equanimity, we are aware of what's happening in our body, in our breath, and in our mind. And yet we're able to take a moment of reflection, a moment of calm, before we have a reaction, an outward reaction, before we manifest a behavior. And so in this time of absolute stress and uncertainty, equanimity is a wonderful skill to cultivate because it allows us to take a moment and then respond to the situation, maybe from a more informed perspective, a more reasoned perspective, and certainly a calmer perspective. And so there are yogic strategies we can use to cultivate equanimity. Some of those are meditative in nature. Some of them have to do with how we regulate our breath. And some are about focusing the mind. And all of that can happen while we move, which is sort of the beauty of yoga. And so it brings our entire being into balance. And when we are in balance, we are more able to tap into our resilience and equanimity. And so we'll start our class today with a breathing practice that creates that little gap between stimulus and response, that brings our awareness to that moment of stillness that we all have within us, that gives us the space to create a response rather than have a reaction. And so this breathing practice is called a 4-part breath, and we also have a YouTube video of me teaching that, so you can have more information about it elsewhere. But I will guide you through it. So it is your choice at this point whether you want to be seated for this breathing practice or whether you want to lie on your back. I personally really love taking my breathing practices on my back, so that might be a choice you make. If you do, you might put a blanket or a pillow under your head, and maybe lift your knees a little bit with a blanket or a pillow under the knees so that you prevent any back issues. If you're a happy sitter, if you have a meditation practice and your legs don't fall asleep or this or that, then you're absolutely welcome to take this breathing practice in a comfortable seat of your choice. I'm also not of the school that says that once you've chosen a position, you have to freeze into it. So feel welcome to wiggle and move to make yourself comfortable or remake yourself comfortable as the practice progresses. If it feels comfortable and safe for you, I invite you to close your eyes. Closing the eyes or keeping them at half mast or finding a point of focus helps you focus your awareness and attention. It also allows you to draw inward into your sensations in your body and in your breath. In whatever position you have chosen, in this moment, I invite you to feel the places where you make contact with the earth. I invite you to find this contact and recognize it as a beautiful grounding force that is holding you and supporting you in this moment. You might even allow yourself to let your body sink into this contact with the earth, whether you're lying down or sitting. And at the same time as you're grounding into the earth, feeling the own heaviness of your body, also find a sense of lightness, perhaps as you inhale. A sense of opening. If you're seated, a sense of moving upward. If you're lying down, maybe a sense of expanding through the torso. This is a very common juxtaposition in yoga, that we are both grounding and lifting at the same time. We make contact with the earth and we reach up for the sky. From this place in your body, I invite you to pay particular attention now to your inhalations. Noticing how the breath is moving in, perhaps feeling the sensation of breath in your nostrils, perhaps feeling breath flowing in through the throat. Or perhaps noticing the in-breath in the gentle rising of the abdomen or the expansion of your ribcage. You might have a point where the inhalation is most palpable for you, so you could bring your attention there. Or perhaps for you it's easiest to feel the inhalation if you follow it from beginning to end. And maintaining awareness of this beautiful flow of breath, of energy into your body. Shift your attention now to the out breath. And notice how breath is leaving your body. Perhaps feeling warmed air moving out through the nose. Perhaps feeling breath travel up through the throat. Perhaps feeling the out-breath in the gentle falling or contracting of the belly and the ribcage. With each out-breath, you might have a sense of letting go, of releasing, of relaxing, of relinquishing control. And then maintaining awareness of your inhalation and your exhalation, the flow of breath in, the flow of breath out. I invite you to take your attention to that moment at the top of the breath, that moment when the inhalation turns into the exhalation. And to notice if there is even the tiniest of gaps. A moment of stillness as breath is finished moving in, but maybe not quite yet moving out. There's no need to try to create this gap or to force a gap. I'm simply inviting you to notice if there is just the tiniest bit of space at the top of the breath. And then draw your attention to the bottom of the breath, that place where the exhalation turns into the inhalation, where you have breathed out, but you're not quite yet needing to breathe in. This too might be the tiniest of gaps, the tiniest of spaces. This is the four-part breath. Breathing in, finding the gap at the top of the breath. Breathing out, finding the gap at the bottom. And so the cycle goes. In time, perhaps the gap at the top and the bottom increases. And as the space between your inhalation and exhalation increases, so might your sense of equanimity, your capacity to create a space between stimulus and response. Take one more full round of four-part breath. Consciously inhaling, pausing, exhaling, and pausing. And then if you are lying on the floor, gently begin your journey to a seat, perhaps rolling to your right side and helping yourself up with your arms. Finding a seat that's comfortable enough to hold for just a few moments. If it feels appropriate to you, you might bring your palms together at your heart and bow your head to heart center. To take this moment to invite an intention for your time on the mat today. An intention might be a simple word or a phrase of something greater, something that merits your attention, and to which you will dedicate this time. And then release your hands, open your eyes if they were closed, and lift your focus. And we will start our movement in tabletop position. So this is also called 4-point balance. And if you have knees that tend to be a little bit on the achy side, it might be nice to kneel on a blanket. If you don't have a blanket, you can take your mat and you can make a fold like this, and then place your knees on this fold. That gives just a little bit of extra cushioning. If you have wrist issues, one way that you can relieve that every now and then during our tabletop work is to bring the hands to fists like this, and to be on your fists rather than flat on your palms. I hope you can see that on the video well enough. And that should release pressure on the wrist. If you have extreme pressure on the wrists and even that doesn't work, then a great way to modify and still be in tabletop is to have your forearms on a couple of blocks, setting the height that's most appropriate for you. So for me, the middle height is best when I modify my tabletop that way. Tabletop is a beautiful posture or movement, really, in which to explore the 4-part breath. And so I invite you here to move with your breath. As you inhale, and I might move my hands away from the floor just to show something, keep your hands on the floor. You might, as you inhale now, let the belly get heavy, allowing it to drop toward the floor. And as the belly becomes heavy and moves toward the floor, the head might float up naturally. Then you might know that little bit of a gap in the breath as you hold this cow position. And then as you exhale, draw the belly in. Belly button moves toward the spine, letting the movement start at the belly, arching the back, and maybe the head will naturally come forward into cat position, and maybe find the gap at the bottom of your breath here to hold cat for a moment. And then keep flowing with your own breath from cow to cat, holding on the stillness at the top and the bottom of the mat, and moving with your breath. Inhaling cow, holding cow for any amount of time, exhaling into cat, and holding cat any amount of time. And then the next time you find yourself in cat, from there, come to a neutral position. And so the neutral position is exactly in the center between cow and cat. Your belly draws in, so you can sort of feel your core engaging here. And your spine is not flat, right? You have that nice natural curve in your spine that provides back health, resilience. And it's kind of like the point of equanimity for your spine, right? It's not over-engaged, it's not under-engaged, it's just so. And then from here, what we will do is to begin some balancing movements. And we'll start by lifting the left leg behind us, making it parallel to the floor, pressing through the heel. And then the right hand lifts in front of us, also parallel to the floor, and shooting maybe energy through your fingertips. Hold this for another moment, and then with your next exhalation, release the limbs down. Take a gap, and then as you inhale, switch sides. Right leg, left arm, both limbs parallel to the floor. Keep your core engaged, strong but soft. And hold this for one more moment until you need to exhale. And then with the exhalation, release the limbs. And then we'll take this movement with the breath. Inhaling, left leg, right arm, holding, and then exhaling with the out breath. You'll have to use your own rhythm, so you can't use my breath or the breath of other people on the video here. You need to see, okay, on the inhale, I rise, I hold on the gap. On the exhale, I lower, I hold on the gap. Inhale, I rise, opposite side, and so on. Flowing with your breath, and perhaps flowing very slowly if your breath is full this morning and you have the spaciousness to really find length in each breath cycle. And one more side. And then when you have released back down, we will all meet once again in a neutral position. Belly engaged, shoulder blades on your back and drawing toward each other and down the back for a nice stability in the shoulders. And what we'll do now is add a little bit to this flow. So we'll start again with left leg and right arm. This time as we exhale, we don't release the limbs to the floor, but instead we bring the right elbow to the left knee and bring a little bit of a calf arch into the back. With the inhalation, we reach back out. With the exhalation, we draw back in. Do this a total of 5 times on this side, flowing with your own breath. Or maybe it'll be 4 times for some of you and 6 times for others. It all depends on your breath cycle. And after the next one, after you've extended your limbs with the exhalation, bring them back into tabletop. Take a small pause, and then when you feel ready, switch sides. Right leg, left arm, inhaling to extend, exhaling to bring elbow to knee, inhaling and extending, exhaling, elbow to knee. 4 to 6 times using your own breath. Staying connected to your core here, not letting the belly drop or the back arch too much, but feeling the strength within you. Noticing the gaps as you hold before you move. After your next extension out, bring the limbs back down. Great, everybody is back together. From here, we'll do what I call a tilting tabletop, and if you haven't done this before, you can watch first. So I will start again with left leg and right arm out. This time, the movement is such that I come into Sphinx arms, and then I tilt my tabletop forward. Then I come back up. And we'll do this on the same side 4 to 6 times. Does that make sense? Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, lovely, exactly. Forearms are on the ground when you're in the tilt and coming back out. Sweet. When you've done about 4 to 5 to 6, you can switch sides. Should be pretty close for most of you. Sweet. And then come back into your tabletop position when you feel balanced on both sides. The challenge of video, I can't really see too well how you guys are balancing this side to side. All right. From here, I will show you the next movement in this little tabletop sequence that I call my tabletop sequence for focusing the mind, because you kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing, especially the second time we go around. So for this one, again, we'll start with left leg, right arm. This one is a little bit more of a balancing challenge, right? What you will do now is you will pass the right arm over across the left, and the left leg across the right, and the left arm comes into Sphinx. I hope you can see this well enough. Then you press back up, and you come down, and you switch sides. Okay? All right, so if you haven't already started, go ahead and start. Yeah, crossing over. And you might notice that it's a little bit of a balancing challenge, but your forearm will help stabilize you. And then notice if even in this more challenging flow, you can find that gap between the inhalation and the exhalation that allows you to hold the pose at that point of balancing for just a moment with quietude, with calm, with equanimity. Take 2 or 3 more of these, depending on where you are on the right or the left, making sure that you've done both sides the same number of times. And then this time we'll all meet in a seat. And this seat is called Rocks Pose. You're seated on your heels. If that's uncomfortable, you can always take a brick and bring it between the feet so that you're sitting up a little bit higher. That might be easier on your knees. So your choice. Some of us also have the kind of ankles that you need a little rolled towel under the ankles to make the ankles comfortable. So you can always do that as well. And I will face you so that you can see better what we're doing next. So from here, inhale your arms up, find your gap, and then exhale them down. Find your gap at the bottom. And when you are ready, inhale them, and this time keep them overhead. Interlace your fingers, press the palms to the ceiling, and side bend to the right, letting your hips slide to the left. It might almost slide off your heels or even move a little bit on the brick. Inhale to center, and when your breath allows, exhale to the other side. We'll do this one more time on each side, using the 4-part breath. Inhaling up, exhaling down. Inhaling up, exhaling down. And then let's all meet at center. And then bring your hands to your hips. Take your left leg and bring it out to the side with the edge of the left foot on the mat. It will feel a little bit odd, but Try it anyway. And then bring the left arm up and overhead and take a side bend here. So you're bending away from that left foot. Then inhale, come up, bring the left hand to the hip and bring the right hand across and over, letting the foot open up. So maybe you're touching your toes, or maybe you're just reaching for your thigh, or maybe you have both hands on the ground. We'll come back up and lean to the other side. The heel, the edge of the foot comes down to the mat. Then you inhale up, the foot points up as you pivot to the other side. Again, using your 4-part breath, inhaling, honoring the gap, exhaling, honoring the gap. Inhaling. One last time, folding over the left leg. And rise up. Bring the left leg in and stretch the right foot out to the side. Inner edge of the right foot is on the floor. And we'll start by inhaling and then exhaling to bend away from the right leg. Inhale, let the right foot pivot up. Exhale, reach across either for the toe or the thigh or the floor. Never assuming that one side is the same as the other, right? What worked best for you on the left side may not work for you on the right side. So always be willing to explore. Breathing, staying mindful, noticing the gap in your breath as you flow through movement, as you flow through life. One last time, reaching for the right foot. And then come to center and turn back to the side of your mat if you also turn away. From here, if you have them, use your yoga blocks, or if you have books or whatever else you might be using, and bring them to the top of your mat. And from here, step the left foot inside the left brick. The bricks are mat width apart. And we'll come into a lunge position, either with the back knee lifted or the back knee lowered. It's really doesn't make a difference. It's your choice, right? And in this lunge, find energy drawing back through the left thigh bone and forward through the right thigh bone so that your hips are level side to side. So not collapsing open like this, but integrating the hips like that. Does that make sense? Great. From here, in this lunge, find your 4-part breath. And then once you have reconnected to the breath, if you lost it for a moment, the next time you exhale, draw the hips back and straighten the forward knee. As you inhale the next time, come forward and flow through with the breath, exhaling. Maybe the head moves toward the leg. Maybe you stay in a half lift. That's really up to you. And maybe your hamstrings in that forward leg, right? You can also keep a slight bend in the forward leg. to accommodate for any tightness from sitting and flow with the breath. The next time you're in your lunge, stay there. So the next time your forward knee is bent, stay there until we're all back together. And then step the forward leg back so that you're in a plank position on your bricks. Now here you have choices. You can hold this plank nice and strong and take one breath cycle. Or you can take one breath cycle and at the same time, take a few dips to do a little strengthening of your arms and your shoulders. And then with your next out breath, step the right foot forward for the same sequence on the other side. So now we're drawing energy back through the right femur and forward through the left to keep our hips nice and parallel side to side. And then as you exhale, move towards straightening the forward leg. And then moving with your own breath. Inhaling into the lunge, holding, reintegrating during the gap. And exhaling, holding and exploring during the gap what you would like to do with your torso. Maybe you fold over the leg, maybe you're in a half lift. Moving with your breath. Forward on the inhale and back on the exhale. And maybe by honoring the breath, you can actually find enjoyment in the sensation of the stretch here, in the challenge of moving in a very integrated way through this little flow. And then the next time you are in your lunge, stay there. So the next time your knee is bent, perfect. And then let's all step back into plank yet again. And once again, your choice. You can build strength here by resting for a breath or two, or you can build strength by taking 4 dips, working shoulders and arms. Sweet. And then once again, step the left foot forward. And this time, after you've paralleled your hips, take all the weight out of your left hand and bring your left hand to your sacrum, that little triangular bone at the back, in your low back. And roll yourself open. Breathing here, recognizing that breathing is a little bit more challenging when you invite a bit of a twist into your life, into your movement. And yes, if you would like, you can point the fingers to the ceiling. Beautiful. With your next out breath, release your left hand back to the brick, come back into your lunge, step the left leg back. Either rest or take 4 dips here. Or 2 or 1, right? There's nothing magical about 4. And then switch sides yet again, right foot forward. Unweight the right hand this time. Bring to the sacrum before you move. And then use that right hand to guide the low back into position before perhaps you bring that arm up. Breathing in this position, noticing if here, where you have more challenge, in part due to the twist, in part due to the balance, can you find the gap in your breath? Can you connect to your own spaciousness here? With your next out breath, return the hand back to the brick. From here, lower the back knee down. Bring the other knee back to it, and you can move the blocks to the side. Come back into tabletop. Walk your hands one hand's length forward than they would normally be in tabletop. Curl your toes under. From here, bring the bum toward the heels. Press into the hands, and then from that power of pressing into the hands, lift the hips up and away. For your first downward dog of this class, maybe walking your dog by straightening and bending one knee at a time, sort of slowly pedaling out your down dog, your hamstrings. And then perhaps tune into your breath here. What is happening to the breath with a new challenge? And can you, at some point here, settle into stillness, either in full down dog, or if you would like, on your knees in puppy's pose. Yogi's choice. Can you find the gap at the top and the bottom of your breath in downward dog? Can your mind stay focused? Can it be present with each inhalation and exhalation? Take one more full round of breath. And with your next inhalation, begin to walk the feet to the hands. You can bend the knees a lot. The hands can lift onto the fingertips, or maybe they even come to your shins as you're either in a forward fold or in a half lift, depending on what feels better for you right now. You might even take your blocks back and have your hands on blocks. And as you settle into this forward fold, whichever version you're choosing, once again tune into the breath and find the pause. Find your own equanimity here as you're upside down. One more full round of 4-part breathing. And then with your next inhalation, rise all the way out, up. Arms out to the side to help you up. Hands above the head. Palms together. And then draw your hands to your heart. From here, you might choose to have your blocks in front of you. You could also have like a little table, or you could have a wall and have your hand at the wall rather than using blocks. We'll just take a small little balancing pose standing before we work our way back to the floor. So from here, bring your weight into your left foot. Try to do that without like shifting your hips too much. Keep nice and integrated. And then from there, lift the right knee, and maybe you catch it with your hands. Maybe you catch it with a strap or a belt if the arms aren't long enough. And as you're balancing here on your left leg, notice what's happening to your right hip. Does it want to hitch up like that? And if it does, ask it to ground so that the hips stay level with each other. So not like this, but like that, exactly. You could even use just one arm if that's less unbalancing for you. And this is also what the brick is for. If you feel really unbalanced, then you can bring the tip of the toe to the block and hold this pose like this, and maybe do touchdowns like this. If you feel really steady here, you might choose to bring the knee even higher. And then yogi's choice, you might clasp from the inside of the leg, your ankle, and bring it to your side. You can always have a wall too. To come into a tree pose. And then notice what is happening to the breath in tree pose. Is the breath more erratic? Are you losing the spaces, the gaps at top and bottom? Nothing is good or bad, it's really just an exploration. And then release the hands and come out the way you came in. So don't just drop the foot on the ground here if you are in tree pose, but bring the knee back up. Just work on your core strength here and enjoy the journey as much as the destination. And then step the foot down, shake it out a little bit before you do the other side. And then bring your weight into the right foot. And gently draw the left knee up, either with a strap, a scarf, or your hands. And now remembering, oh yeah, I want to keep my hips level, so not hitching over to the right by hitching the left hip up, but grounding the left hip down. And from there, catching the knee. Maybe staying here, maybe clasping that knee even closer to the chest. Maybe reaching in through the inside to the ankle and bringing that left foot to the inside of the right thigh. Using your wall or furniture or breath or all of the above to balance yourself. And notice your breathing. Can you maintain your equanimity? Can you find the gap at the top and the bottom of the breath? Can you find stillness in challenge? And then release the hands and let's come out the way we came in. Bringing the knee up, maybe holding for a moment, and then stepping down and shaking it out, jogging it out before we take ourselves back to the floor. So stepping to the front of the mat, and here, give yourself plenty of runway behind you so that as we roll back, you don't have to worry about rolling into furniture or the wall. Bring the feet mat width apart. And then from here, come into a squat. Your heels can either be lifted or on the floor. This is just an ankle anatomy thing. For some of you, your feet will be happily on the floor, and for some of you, your ankle anatomy is such that the heels need to be lifted. So it's not a good or a bad thing, it just is what it is. Bring the palms together at your heart, if you can. And press the elbows into the knees, knees into the elbows. And if that's too much, the hands can be forward and you can have a smaller opening between the knees. I can turn around and show this like this. So you can be here, you can be here, you can be here, you can be here. Lots of variations for the squat. And then from here you have a couple of choices, there probably are many, to come onto your back. If you tend to have low back issues or you're not sure about your balance today or your strength in this moment, you can bring the hands behind you and guide yourself to the floor like this. If you want a little bit more of a challenge to see if you can keep the breath during the challenge, stretch your arms out in front of you, draw into your core, and then place the bum onto the mat without just suddenly rolling back. And then from here, lower yourself onto your back, maybe one vertebra at a time, maybe using your hands to bring you down slowly. You're coming to your elbows. Find your own path. Have both knees bent here. And then draw your right knee into the chest, giving it a nice hug, either with your hands or a strap. Give it a nice squeeze. And then bring the right foot back to the floor, knee bent, and squeeze the left knee into your chest. Switch sides one more time. Left foot down, right knee into the chest. Or if you would prefer, you can bring both knees into the chest at the same time rather than switching sides. From here, I invite you to take any last little wiggles or movements that might feel comfortable for you. Maybe you're rolling across the spine side to side. Maybe you're taking a happy baby, feet in the air. Maybe you're doing some windshield wipers, feet mat width apart, both knees to one side and then the other side. Just sort of find what is working for your body in this moment. Sweet. And then once you have taken whatever little movements feel auspicious for you right now, choose your final Shavasana position. The big caution I have for you here is that in Shavasana, we want the forehead either level with the chin or a little bit higher with the chin so that we're not hyperextending the throat. So you might want to take the time to grab a blanket or a little pillow to place it under your head to make sure that your chin is just a tiny bit tucked. You're not compressing the thyroid here, but you just want that little bit of elevation in the forehead to still your nervous system and to move into a parasympathetic state. If you tend to get chilly, this would be a really nice time to cover up with a blanket. If you tend to have low back issues, you might want a rolled towel under your knees, or maybe you bend your knees and lean them against each other with the feet mat width apart. The key to a Shavasana that really is a complete release for body, breath, and mind is to make the body as comfortable as possible. And so I invite you to continue to modify and wiggle until you find the perfect spot. And then from here, I invite you to close your eyes if that feels safe. And to bring your attention inward. Drop your attention deep into your core. and let it settle there. Let it settle in that place of tranquility and stability. At your very center, just like in the depths of the ocean, there is always quietude. You may not always realize it, but it's always present. Equanimity, that capacity to read the sensations in your body and in your breath, and then to use that information rationally and calmly, comes from daily practice of stillness, of exploring the gap between stimulus and response, of making conscious choices to slow down, to let go. And in some ways, to surrender control. Without letting go of your own agency, capacity, skill, and ability to cope. And from this place of deep knowing that you at your core have the capacity for equanimity, for resilience, move into a few moments of silence. Gently bring your senses back to the outer world, noticing sounds and smells around you. And as gently as possible, prepare yourself for your journey to a seat. Maybe imagining that rolling to the right side before you actually do it. And when you have found a seat, I invite you to bring your palms together at your heart or to rest them on your thighs, whichever feels more comfortable. And to once again bow your head to your heart. With great equanimity, bring yourself back to your intention that you set earlier today. And just notice whether that intention is something you would like to carry into your day, or if a new intention is arising for you. With your next inhalation, breathe that intention into your own heart. And with your next exhalation, send that intention out into the world. Thank you so much for joining this YogaX session. It's an honor and a privilege to practice with you. And I hope to see some of you again next Wednesday morning.